Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes are off to back-to-back Elite Eights for the first time since the 1987-88 seasons. They had a big 89-68 win over Colorado, and Clark once again the big storyline for Iowa. 29 points, 6 rebounds, and 15 assists as they advance to take on LSU in the Elite Eight. If you take a look at the difference here, Hawkeyes 7.5-point favorites end up winning it by 21. So a big victory for them. We mentioned Clark, number of players sitting in double figures. This was a big win for them as they load up and get ready. By the way, they also surpassed their total for most wins in a season. This their 32nd win of the season, surpassing a mark that they tied last year. Let's get more on this from women's college basketball analyst Erica Ayala, who is in Albany. First of all, Erica, I don't know whether people were expecting it to be this big of a victory, but what did you make of Iowa's dominant performance versus Colorado?
I think that a lot of people expected Iowa to put on a good performance here, but it's what I've been talking about for a few days now. It's that this Iowa team, they can be an elite level team, a Final Four team, even a team that competes once again for a championship when they get Caitlin Clark, not just the shooter, but Caitlin Clark, the facilitator. And that's exactly what you got today. She had 8 of 10 of Iowa's assists in the first half, en route to her 15. And so I think that's exactly what we saw, is that Iowa was just clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, she was below her points per game, but the assists per game was pretty much doubled in this with the 15 assists. And the performance from Clark, I mean, obviously this is kind of what you expect. And you look at the performance in a Sweet 16 game, her 15 assists, you know, matching a list or getting onto a list that is among the most all-time in a Sweet 16 outing. So to your point, really showing that she can be a facilitator. She's perhaps more dangerous when she's both a facilitator and a scorer. So now they move on to take on LSU. We get that rematch of last year's national championship on Monday night. Erica, give us an early preview for this one, because based on the way both teams played today, this looks like it could be one for the history books.
Well, we saw Iowa really put on a dominant performance against Colorado today, but we know that at different times in the NCAA tournament that they have struggled and maybe not look like the Iowa that we've seen for most of the regular season. The same can be said about LSU. I think that they wanted more from what they got in their UCLA performance. It was a back and forth game, but they were able to gut it out. Angel Reese got into some foul trouble. Anissa Morrow has been banged up. Talk to her in the locker room. She says, I'm always banged up. But you know that this is going to be a dogfight. There's a lot of emotion. It's likely going to be one of the highest viewed games in the tournament, if not setting records for the women's game overall, which has already seen a 70% increase in the first round alone. So there is going to be a lot happening. Both teams, I'm sure, are going to close the phones, shut down the computers, and really just lock in and focus, because that's what it's going to take, because there is a trip to the Final Four on the line.
Yeah, and you heard the commentators mention that tickets for this game over $200. I can't imagine what they're going to be for that game coming up on Monday night. You mentioned the fact that the teams are probably going to hunker down and cut out the distractions. Speaking of that, I mean, we've been waiting for the Washington Post to drop their controversial article on LSU head coach Kim Mulkey. Turns out a bit of a damp squib. I mean, we saw her reaction to it in the press conference. It doesn't seem like it's going to be very disruptive for her or her team.
And you're exactly right. That's what we heard from the players in the locker room. They're letting coach handle their business, and they are going to handle theirs, which right now they know is their next opponent, which is Iowa. So we'll see how everything unfolds in the coming days. But again, right now, the Tigers and the Hawkeyes are focused on winning the next game and getting to the Final Four.
Our college basketball analyst, Erica Ayala, joining us from Albany to talk about Iowa's big win as they advance to the Elite Eight for a national championship rematch against LSU on Monday night. Thank you very much, Erica. Always good to have you along with us. That game coming up 7 p.m. Eastern time on Monday night. 7:15 will be the tip-off in Albany. And we mentioned that it's the rematch of last year's national championship. Iowa, obviously a bit of a revenge factor here because they lost that game last year by 17 points. The 32 wins, the 32nd win, which they got today, is the most in a single season in school history. But LSU looking to become repeat champions for the first time since UConn did it from 2013 through 2016. Should be a great one on Monday night.